Valerie. We're preparing.
Mr. Abbey. Chuck, your mic. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Cicero Planning Board meeting. Mr. Abbey, would you please lead us off in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business is the approval of the July 20th minutes. Everybody's had a chance to review. Any questions or comments? We have a motion to approve.
Approved as we had one little change which she's made.
Second,
Second.
Mr. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Bloss.
Yes.
And I vote yes, minutes have been approved. Next, we will accept public comment on any active application that's in front of the planning board. So if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the board, you're welcome to come up this time. Would anybody like to come up? Given nobody's approaching, we'll close the public input and move on to the first agenda item. This is site plan for the property at Thompson Road. It's a proposed publishing company. This is maybe third time back. Welcome back.
Hello, my name is Christian from Keplinger Freeman Associates, here to present Casey and Kirch Publishing. As you well know at this point, the proposed business is a small publishing company with breakout classrooms for a small educational component. We have is a 3,800 square foot building with 25 parking spaces, expansion area in the future. We have at this point addressed all comments from the board. And Mark was kind enough to send us some comments on the 26th, which we have addressed and turned around. So you should have two sheets in front of you, which are the only two sheets that were affected by it. The changes were as follows. A couple signage changes for reserved parking stalls. We have two signposts, two sign plates on one post indicating where you can't park with the striping, just a legal thing. The other comment was about some contact information with the engineer. That's a note. We fixed that one up. And the remainder of the comments were pretty minor. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I think we're all set with this. I will get a review letter out to you following the meeting here, but we are all set with it.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mark. We'll open it up to questions. Mr. Duval,
I'm good right now.
Mr. Abbey.
Just to review, the entire building has a second floor or just partially a second floor?
Partially second floor. Yeah.
Because the design I'm looking at looks very nice. It's a compliment to the neighborhood.
Yeah, and architects does a good job. And the whole goal of the design was to make this feel like neighborhood commercial, which was the zone we
Oh.
moved into.
It's nice to see the town growing in these directions.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
Probably not ours to worry about, but you're going to a ground source heat
Geothermal,
system
yes.
and all the piping is under driveway or parking lot. Is that really what
Correct.
you want to do?
So, yeah, I'll explain that one out there. So see that backwards E shape, if you will, that is the infiltration basin.
Yep.
Because oddly enough, as we tested it, this site, despite being very close to wetlands, has good soils. We were able to get infiltration, which is very non-invasive. It's better for construction and frankly, it's better for the environment. It's less disruption when we use that kind of a system. Once the geothermals came on and said they really want to do this, we worked with them to locate the geothermal in a place that would be non-invasive to the soils. In my opinion, digging all the soils up for infiltration and then putting them back in and saying that the water's going to go through it, the same as if you hadn't touched it, that's a fallacy, and you can ask an engineer and they'll say the same thing. So we located the geothermal on the other side because those soils they're going to be covered with a permeable cap, which is the road. So they're sort of tucked away and they're not disrupting our drainage or being a difficult construction entity.
Okay,
Not my expertise, but yeah.
I'm done.
Mr. Bloss.
I'm curious more than anything, why did they decide on the geothermal?
It's sort of the developers trying to do something that is, forward thinking. It's not a necessary item. It's something that he felt was, better for the environment and better in terms of efficiency. It was sort of a,
Geothermal that was 2 days older than dirt.
yeah. I know.
It's been around a long, long time. I just was curious, why did they all of a sudden decide they're gonna go geothermal?
Yeah, I think it's efficiency. End of the day.
Yeah, I'm all set.
I'm all set as well. Mrs. Hogan,
Thank you.
Mr. Procopio,
Nothing, thanks.
Mr. Jermaine. Mr. Parrish, you're all set. So I'll make a motion for our standard seeker. Do we have a second?
Second,
Mr. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
Yes,
Mr. Snyder,
yes.
Mr. Bloss.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Neil, would you propose a motion for approval, please?
Yes, you're going to move for the adoption of a resolution approving the application known as David and Andrea Kilpatrick, Casey and Kirch Publishing, Thompson Road, tax map number 56-121.4. This approval is strictly conditioned on the following. One, the color schemes, renderings and or elevations as presented by the applicant to the planning board in regard to this application shall be incorporated by reference into the site and the board's approval thereof. Accordingly, the actual project must substantially conform to the items as presented herein.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
yes,
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Bloss,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Pleasure.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda item is site plan. This is for Marion Reynolds for property at 8318 Parker House Road. This is a proposed home occupation. Good evening.
Hi, I'm a licensed massage therapist that I'm working for 2 years.
Are you Marion?
Steve, the microphone, I don't think it's on.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Can you give your name, please?
I'm Marion Reynolds.
I figured.
I've been a licensed massage therapist. Been a licensed massage therapist for 16 years. And I want to start working out of my home just to save money.
Where are you currently located?
I'm currently working at Timeless Massage, also here in Cicero.
We'll open up for questions. Mr. Duval.
Yes. What is the reason behind having the massage room on the second floor?
That's that's the room that's free all the time. It's a spare bedroom. And I think that's where most of my clients are going to be going. Just that not all of my clients would be able to go to the second floor because of, difficulties. So there's a room or an area on the first floor that I want to put up massage if there's somebody who can't climb the stairs.
Okay, but you wouldn't want to have the room for everyone on the first floor?
No.
Is that all the time?
No, that's just for if I do have some disabled clients, so it's just for them. And I wouldn't keep that set up all the time, just for when they come.
Okay, and there's adequate parking?
Yeah, I have a large driveway and there's plenty of room for a car to park. No problem.
Okay.
Mr. Abbey.
you just have one employee or is it just yourself?
Just me.
Okay. And you just have one client at a time. So
Right.
there's no issue with parking, really. And you're not expanding the house footprint at all.
I'm sorry, what?
You're not expanding the house,
No.
just changing the usage of what it is right now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
How many cars are in the household?
2.
So you have a 2-car garage, and if I was coming for massage, I'd be parking in front of that garage. Is that correct?
Correct.
There's not a space that we can be off to the side, so if you have a customer, client, and you want, somebody else wants to get out of the garage, they won't be in the way.
That won't be a problem. My brother is currently living with me. He actually parks in the driveway and he parks way off to the side. So there'd be no problem. I wouldn't be leaving if there was a client there. And it won't be a problem.
I've used a massage therapist a number of times, and I talked to about maybe 12 people in the last week. Asked them if they would go to a massage therapist that required you to go up a set of stairs to get to the massage room. And to every one of them said, no, they would not. In fact, one of the persons indicated that they thought your insurance carrier really wouldn't like to have that either because of the potential for falling if they're going up and down a set of stairs.
Mhm.
I guess I'm wondering if you have a space on the first floor for a handicap situation, why wouldn't you go ahead and make that the primary place for the, do your business, and then you eliminate that possibility of the stairs?
There's no doors on that space. So I would have to be using screens to block off. So it seems like the better choice would be the second floor, except for the disabled clients.
Have you spoken to your neighbors on either side?
Yes.
Have they said, yes, no problem?
Doesn't bother them at all.
Pardon?
It doesn't bother them at all.
I would like to have them give you a note that says just that. So there isn't a situation, if it gets approved, that someone then next door says, well, I never knew it. And I certainly wouldn't want that to be next door to me in a residential area.
Okay, well, I spoke to both neighbors. I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem giving me a note. So if that's your concern, it shouldn't be a problem.
And the steps going into the house, one up to the landing and one in the house, do you plan on doing any difference, any ramp or anything with that?
No, my current clients who are disabled would have no trouble getting up that far. They just wouldn't be able to go up a whole flight of stairs.
Done.
Mr. Bloss,
I'm all set.
Mrs. Hogan.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I don't know if that's on, sorry. I was wondering, when you go to an appointment, there's usually another person waiting for the next appointment. So if you're currently waiting, or working on a client, where does the person wait who's next in terms of parking, in terms of waiting, in terms of communicating with them? Because if you're currently in a massage, do you have any plan for that?
There shouldn't be a problem with that because there's going to be half an hour between appointments.
Okay,
So that should be plenty of time to have one person leave and have another person come in.
okay. Is there going to be any signage or anything on your house or in front or on the lawn?
I would like to have a little sign next to the driveway. So when people pull in, they know they're in the right place, but I don't really want a big sign that advertises throughout the neighborhood.
Okay.
Just, I do have a lot of continuing clients who would come, I think. But I don't want to be actively trying to recruit the neighbors.
Okay. Yeah, I just think that we would have to see like that sign, whatever it is that you decide to go with too.
Okay.
Probably maybe be in the note as well from the neighbors.
Well, I don't have a sign yet. I would
Right.
just like to get
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Let me just talk about the sign a little bit, because I talked about this with Steve in the beginning, before the meeting. And I saw that you wrote entrance, you wanted to put a sign at the entrance. I wasn't sure if that was at the driveway or the entrance of the house, but it's got to be in the window for the code, and it's this dimension, Steve, again, is what?
2 square feet.
2 square feet. So it has to be in the house, in a window, and no
It has to
greater
be in the
than-
house.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That's it for me.
That's it. Good questions. You took all mine. So I was a little bit concerned about the overlap, and there's a 9.5 hour business of operation, right?
We have a half hour where I'm working now and it doesn't seem to be a problem.
And how many customers would you have in a day?
4 at the most.
How long is a massage typically?
Usually an hour.
I'm set, Mr. Procopio,
I'm all set. Thank you.
Mr. Jermaine.
I have heard the talk about, one customer at any given time, maximum 2 cars in the driveway. I haven't heard anything about hours of operation. Is that a concern?
It's on the application.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you recall what they are? The hours of operation, 30 to 6.
That would be the most, that it would probably start later some days and
Yeah, actually, it was a little bit later because I think, didn't you say the last customer could be 6 or 6:30? So,
the last customer would probably be coming in at 4:30 because I
okay.
want to be done by 6.
okay, because you say here, the earliest 8:30, the latest 6 o'clock. Is what you said on your application.
Those are the hours of operation. So if I let the last client in at 4:30, they should be out by 6.
So you're going to start no earlier than 8:30 and you'll be done by 6.
Right.
We can make a condition on the letters from the neighbors. Or do you want to?
You might want to see the letters first.
All right, that's fine.
I don't know the timeframe of the applicant.
So what our attorneys recommend is that we get those letters in our hand before we approve.
Okay.
So another couple of weeks. That work for you?
Yep. Well, I can't be at the meeting in a couple weeks.
That's
Do I
okay.
have to be back here?
We don't need
No.
to.
Okay.
I would just present the letters and put it on the application and then proceed.
Yeah, you'll want to get those letters to the town at least a week prior.
Okay.
Mr. Parrish,
No comments.
that's good for tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is Pandora Barns. This is for property at 9289 and 9291 Brewerton Road, a proposed change of use and related site improvements. Good evening. Thank you.
Somebody told you we love handouts.
Hmm, Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. We just figured we would tell you a little bit about ourselves before we proceed. So we're Tom and Victoria McFall. Thank you certainly for giving us the time to present the proposal we have. Currently, we reside locally in the town of Cicero. It's where we live. Been married for 31 years, 2 grown daughters, and a wonderful puppy named Pandora.
You have to read that?
Yeah.
But you don't remember how many years you've been married or what?
Best to read it.
Careful. I did tell her 30 before and she corrected that. So, yeah, so you'll see the picture of our namesake in there. So for the last 21 years, I've been a store manager for Hannaford Supermarkets, if you've ever heard of them. I have extensive experience in managing retail business with multiple customers and vendors for sure. I've been recognized with a lot of several awards, including Leader of the Year on numerous occasions, Operations Manager, to name a few of those awards. My wife, Vicky, was an owner operator of her own highly successful cleaning business for 20 years, provided services to numerous residential and commercial clients, creating sustained business model built on quality, trust, and community support. And we are very passionate about our creation of Pandora's Barn. I want to bring a new, fresh, and efficiently run business to the town of Cicero.
Okay, so we've got Pandora's Barn, Antiques, Collectibles, and Treasures Galore. We purchased the former Lloyd's Furniture and Moore's Furniture Building located at 9285 Brewerton Road. This will be the home of our vision. We will be an owner-operated, no employee business, which will house vendor leased spaces. As the owners, we will offer spaces to exhibitors so they will be able to sell their antiques, collectibles, and vintage items in a safe, clean, and bright atmosphere. Local crafters will be a welcome addition to the overall experience as well. Pandora's Barn will be open for business Wednesday through Sunday, 10 to 4, closed Mondays and Tuesdays. Vendors will be able to manage their booths before and after business hours. On days the shop is closed. We are excited to bring this business to life and share our lifelong passion with the community.
So we certainly would answer any questions, but basically in our pamphlet, you can see the day we purchased the building was the first page there. That's the cover page. And then a few pages in, you see we've done some work to it and started painting it. I don't know if anyone's driven by it.
Well, we have,
Yep.
oh, yes.
Pretty cool. So 23 gallons of paint on the outside. Me and Vicky did, so that was pretty good. Then our namesake Pandora, play on Pandora's box, obviously. And then we kind of just have our mission statement to go along there at the bottom.
So your dog's name is Pandora,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So that's all. That's our part of the presentation. So I'd like to introduce our engineer, Alex Wisniewski from LJR Engineering. He's going to go over the details.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, as Tom mentioned, the site's at 9289 Brewerton Road. If you're familiar with the location, it's just north of Mud Mill Road on the west-hand side. It abuts just actually town of Cicero property on all sides. It is zoned general commercial, and this would be an allowed use under that zoning, but with the change in use, we've made site plan application. They plan to renovate the 9,400 square foot single story building. Its most previous use was used as a storage building. The site improvements are going to be limited to, if you're, Mark, could you pull up the, there's a road street view image that in here. Existing condition street view there, the image. This shows what it looks like before they acquired the property and started the rehabilitation of the building. But as you can see, there's really no regulation to site access to the property. So one of the big things that we intend to do is create a defined driveway 22 feet in width. The asphalt that currently lies between the edge of shoulder of the roadway up to basically the right of way line of the highway would be restored as a lawn area. And then we would control access via the new regulated driveway. I have submitted a copy of that to DOT. I'm just waiting for input from them. I assume that they'll be in agreement with that because typically they're going to try to control site access. I've actually learned from Vicky since they've started working on the building, people tend to use their site as a turnaround and kind of pull in and out at will. So we're hopeful by regulating that driveway that'll help to improve that situation. Mark, if you could flip back to the site plan for me. So in addition to that work, we're also proposing designated parking for 15 vehicles. The thinking is that at the most at one time, Tom and Vicky would be at the site and potentially one of their vendors. So we're thinking of 3 spaces for employees, and that leaves another 12 for customers, which we think is more than sufficient. We do have a limited budget to work with here, so their intent is to install that initially as gravel, get the business open and generating some revenue, and then ultimately top that and it'll be surfaced as asphalt and striped. We do need to maintain access across the front of the building to the north end of the site where there's overhead doors there that also serve as storage. and the potential for vendors to bring their wares in from the front and or that northern door. There's also an existing gravel drive that comes around to the back that we intend to keep in place, and there is more overhead doors in the rear of the site. All the existing utilities serve the building and those will remain unchanged. We're not proposing any additional site lighting. There's existing building mounted fixtures on the building that I understand they've already replaced with modern LED bulbs, but those fixtures will remain in place as are. The existing drainage patterns will be maintained. I did prepare a grading and erosion control plan as part of the package. We're gonna disturb less than an acre, so a species permit won't be required from DEC. And the redevelopment won't result in an increase in impervious surfaces either. So we shouldn't see any increase in runoff. And I guess subsequent to site plan approval from your board, we would make our formal application to DOT for that driveway permit and work within the highway right of way. I think that's generally it for my presentation, and I'd be happy to try to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you. Mr. Duval?
Okay, so is this the extent of what's going to be done as far as the outside?
There was also this was in your package, which is intended to represent what the final, do you have that in your other building rendering?
This one?
So that's what it's intended to look like. They do intend to have a sign on the building similar to as shown, and there's an existing pole mounted sign out near the roadway that they would like to reface. It's in pretty poor condition now, as you can see. They'd like to reface that and renovate that for their signage. So that's the rendering is the intended final product.
What about lighting? You said you weren't going to do any additional lighting.
No, sir. There are building mounted fixtures currently on the building that, obviously I think are important for security purposes. Those will continue to be used. They did replace the old spot bulbs with new modern LED fixtures. We do not propose any additional site lighting, pole mounted or otherwise.
Also, Mr. Abbey?
Well, I do agree that the front area there does have to be revamped to control in and out traffic, unwanted. Do I understand the antiques and collectibles will be just from the owners, or will they be taking on vendors?
It's my understanding, and Vic, if you want to chime in, they'll have vendors that basically rent space from the McFalls. They bring their wares in and stage them as they want. The McFalls there are then on site during operation hours to assist with sales. So and I don't know if you get a portion of sales as well, but I know you're generating revenue from basically renting the space.
So it'd be both.
So it's not expected that you'd have several different vendors in that site at the same time as well. They're generally going to deliver their goods, stack them and present them for sale. And then Tom and Vicky will manage that.
Right, it'd be nice to see that rejuvenated building rather than sitting in an eyesore for many years.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
They're on their way.
Mr. Snyder?
Relative to the sign by the road, I think our engineer will look at that and make sure it meets the codes as far as being away from the highway. Obviously, when you get into this, you'll make a formal drawing to show us what that sign will look like, how big it is. Also, the same thing with the sign on the building. Now's the time to get that approved if this goes ahead. The other thing that concerns me, you said, and I understand tight budgets, but one of the things that we have pretty much done all the time is if we have the public walking in a parking lot, we ask for it to be paved, not to be stone. If it's a demo area or a storage area where we got trailers or something, we've allowed that to stay stone. But I think we would probably want to see the parking area paved. I think you have enough parking spots, and you have enough room that if in the future, you need more, you can expand that. So that's not a problem. I think it's, I've seen a number of these types of businesses. They're really kind of neat. I no longer have a house, so I will be a visitor and look and stare, but I probably won't be buying much because my wife won't let me bring anything home. That's all.
Thank you.
Mr. Bloss.
His wife won't let him bring anything home because she already has an antique.
That's right.
Thanks, Don. No, I drive by there all the time and all of a sudden I look over and it's all painted up and everything, 100%. Your whole take on the building when you see it all painted up.
It really
Just
does.
changes everything.
It really does.
No, I think it'll work out for him. I hope they're very successful.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hogan.
Yeah, I had it down here a couple of times too about the pavement thing, that it should be done before customers. Also because then you can't designate, handicap either until it's paved. I was wondering if there's a separate entrance for vendors versus customers and also timing. Is there like designated times for vendors versus customers?
Would you guys want to try to field that question?
Okay, the vendors will only be allowed to come in before and after the
Hours.
shop opens.
Okay,
Okay, and when we're closed,
right.
so they can come
Yeah,
all
my
day Monday
concern
or
was like
Tuesday.
loading equipment or bringing equipment
Yes,
in and.
They
then
will
also
not be
having
allowed to
customers.
come in when there's customers in the building.
Right.
And as far as the, where the vendors can bring their items, if they're actually very big items,
Mhm.
in the front, there's actually, if you see in one of the original pictures,
Dark spot.
that
Yep,
dark
there.
spot right there,
That we're gonna intend to use that as the main door for them to be able to bring in their items.
Okay.
There's also, I know, I don't want to step on Alex there, but there's also recessed lighting throughout the whole front of the building.
Under the
with
canopy.
Up underneath.
That was gonna be my other question. So that if they do come later, vendors come later and it's after dark, I know you said that there was no lighting that was gonna be in there. My concern was safety in terms of bringing,
yes,
items in
there's
and out.
lighting underneath the canopy.
Yeah,
Okay.
The original furniture building had those in there, really, really nice recessed lighting up there.
Okay. And then the other thing was just also the sign, would just need to see like exactly the size and everything and beforehand.
Now, when you say a sign, like when we're in that big yellow portion, which now is actually red, the sign on the far right, we plan on salvaging it. We want to
Okay.
make it work, but it's not part of the original proposal. We want to just put Pandora's Barn in black letters on the actual building. We wanted to put Pandora's Barn and it'll say antiques, collectibles, and treasures galore. Yes, kind of like that.
Mhm,
We basically purchased sign
Letters.
letters from a store that are wooden.
mhm.
We're gonna
Paint
white
them,
and put that on
and then
on the building itself.
So it's gonna be on both the building and,
Yeah.
Yes,
And we like being in the antique business, we really like that old Moors sign. I know a lot of people are not liking it, but.
no, I think that's a good idea.
I'd
I
like
think
to
that,
repurpose it.
yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, especially because of what it's for. I just think that we like to see it before we approve it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
see the-
Absolutely. But do we need something like that before being able to open? Because we're actually going to have our name on the building first
Right.
before that sign. We're not doing the sign yet.
What's the standalone sign's not happening now? It's not part of the application. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. For
Yeah,
tonight.
We wanted to get some estimates before we make a decision on are we going to paint it or are we going to put a face on it from a sign company? We haven't gotten that far with the sign application.
So does that mean the sign comes down,
Oh,
council? Does that mean the sign would come down if it's not part of the site plan?
Right now,
Yeah.
We want to make it part of it, but I
we
guess I
didn't
would have to.
realize we had to have.
Mark,
it
do we
for
know that
tonight.
it meets the setback? Can you tell it all? It
my guess, looking at the plan, it doesn't.
does not.
It's probably 8 to
Mhm.
10 feet from the right of way or street line
but it's an old sign. So I can tell you how the codes office deals with signs all up and through the town that don't meet current requirements. They're allowed to reface the signs, as long as they're not removing the sign. It can remain, it's an existing nonconformity, and the code says you can improve those. Now,
Well,
if the planning board, subject to the planning board's opinion and thought on that, if they want to relocate. it,
I
that's
mean,
a
we've
different
made
story.
people move signs back. I mean, the
Yes,
one
you
that,
Yeah,
right on
it-
Route
it-
11,
That one may have been right away, but you're right, yeah. Well, they were proposing a new sign as well, and, yeah,
I know when we originally had come and talked to Steve I don't know how many months ago was that.
a long time
We
ago.
did kind of talk it over a little bit and, you know, the advice was given at that time to, you know, hey, if you're thinking of keeping it, you know, maybe you could freshen it up and make it look better. It's an existing sign. But if you guys would like us to take it down, that's. a solid
well, I think it
thing.
depends on what the code says. I mean,
Well, you may have had people move them in the past, but if they're not gonna expand the use, they're just gonna change the lettering on it or something, but they're not gonna expand the scope of that sign, then you wouldn't be forced to, or required to make them move it. I think that's what Steve was saying, right?
Correct.
okay.
And you have the ability to. but
Then
you
I
don't-
would say if we can do that and leave it there, it would be probably smart for you to go ahead and decide how you're gonna handle that sign as a part of this application. So it's,
So
you know,
it's-
it might not be because of dealing with contractors and stuff. It may not be done when you open, but at least we'll all know and everything will be approved
Yeah.
as far as what it will ultimately look like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that's
you
what I
really
meant. Like,
gotta
we
do-
would need
Okay.
to see
Yeah.
what it looks like and
That's our
approve it so
mistake.
that you can get.
Otherwise,
to
you
the
gotta
next
do
step.
another
You don't have to
application,
do
pay
it.
more money, and we don't
Right.
need that.
Yeah, money is.
Oh, okay.
So we can definitely take care of that. And we, you know, we have there's a sign company right there on Brewerton Road that we were recommended to. We'd like to go to them and get an estimate for, our first initial thought was to kind of get it placed, have a cover, as you will,
Yeah.
placed on it with those letterings and things. To try not to disturb, you know, that sign.
So have you got the estimate for the redoing the pavement as well?
We have an estimate. We're gonna go with Eastern Paving, local company. But, you know, I'll be dead honest with you, transparency wise, you know, I know Alex mentioned money is an object. You know, our intent is to, pave it next year, or that's what we would like to do. And it's strictly a financial decision, because of the amount of money that it's costing to get, obviously, DOT and things like that in there. As far as the handicap spaces, you know, that road, I call it, coming off of the state highway that would be paved, required to be paved. You know, we could make that be, this is gonna be the first spot, we can make that pavement and then maybe go to
And
the,
put the signage with it.
well, it kind of comes up to that green area.
You could maybe even get an estimate to see if you could get some of the spots and maybe a walkway or something so that at least you have parts of it
Yeah, you see
completed
the,
for
the
customers.
diagonal lines there. In the bottom right-hand corner of the building there. That's the designate, yep, right there.
Mhm.
That would be the designated kind of handicapped area, so we could have that throat come up and include that
Yeah,
if we would be able to do the rest of the parking in the gravel area that would be hard packed.
I think that would be my suggestion is to try and have something where a few people could be there and park in pavement and have pavement to actually walk on to get into the door. So even if you don't do the whole thing, at least there's spots, safe spots, especially your clientele. There's gonna be people who are very concerned walking on gravel. So I think before opening, there needs to be at least a few spots and a walkway where they're not walking on gravel to get in your door.
Also, it's, you know, I know I'm not a paving expert, but it's not going to be gravel, like gravel stones. It's gonna be
Yeah.
hard packed.
Right. Yeah.
The estimate that we received is to get it paved in 1 year's time, so they're gonna use that hard pack.
Right.
So, not that.
This
you
part
know,
is
I
the
Yeah.
understand
original
Certainly the
estimate.
concern. We have a
Yeah.
concern with it too, only because of longevity in Syracuse,
Yeah.
you know, so we want to get it paved as soon as we can as well.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but I think that would maybe be a good compromise. So at least there's some pavement for customers walking in. It's not holding you guys from opening for a year, but
Right.
I don't know.
It's been our practice not to do that.
Yeah.
I don't see how we can let that happen. I mean,
It's been a pretty common thing
Yeah.
for applicants to come in and want to put gravel down. For the planning board to say, not if there's customers parking there.
And the problem with the hard pack too is your first snowfall. The marks don't stay there, number one, because of turning wheels and stuff. And the other thing is when you plow it for the first time, it's gone.
And we're gonna put posts, you can see they're square designated, similar to the park on Lake Shore Road over where near we live, to designate each spot with a post that sticks up. Because we didn't want to have a problem in the winter for someone not knowing where to park, so they would have that designated post to pull into.
Well, you only are required to have that at the handicap spots, so I wouldn't
Right.
spend the money to have it
Yeah,
for the other spots. I mean,
I think it's important for us to remain pretty consistent.
Mhm.
When we do site review. And our consistency has been if there's going to be public parking, that's pavement.
All right.
Possible to maybe temporarily create customer parking in the existing paved areas perhaps along the front of the building, whether it be parallel parking or other.
I was going to ask
otherwise.
about that. That's 26 foot wide. I'm just curious why you left it so wide.
Just to allow for, because if they have vendors coming in with vans or trailers and whatnot, I wanted to make sure there was enough room for another vehicle to get by if it, because there, like I said, there's an overhead door on that northern portion of the building there. So if you're trying to get up to that door and there's a vendor parked unloading, that was the rationale.
What I was thinking, Alex, was to expand the green area a little bit more and get some landscaping up front.
Mhm.
You've got 20 feet here where people have to go in and out. Why do we need 26 here?
Again, just because of the nature of the deliveries, et cetera. Do you have any problem with reducing the width of that? The residual pavement that would remain?
you know,
We talked about this a little bit
yeah, I mean,
in-house. It gives
was
you the,
just kind of a design plan. I mean, we think about financially saying if the green space has got to be X now, we did get an estimate from the paver to be able to rip up that pavement and abut that to Route 11 there. So, and we were also thinking if someone's going to bring a van or something in, they're going to pull and, back up and park. And so we said, it'd be okay. It's paved already. We're going to utilize the pavement that we have.
What's the condition of the existing paved area?
in the portion in front of the building where it's to remain, it's in pretty decent shape. There are some portions that are in poor condition, in particular as you get closer out to the road. But that you can almost see where that seam is, from there towards the building is what we're generally going to preserve. And then the stuff out towards the highway is what's.
You're gonna resurface some of it or?
I don't
repair
think they're
some of it?
intending to resurface immediately, but I guess down.
Big green space.
What's the chance of the state allowing two? I'm thinking right now that if we can take advantage of the paved area now,
Mhm.
I'm thinking about somebody coming in with a trailer or a truck. If they could come in, what would be the north end of your property? You'd have the green area that would then separate that from what is currently the driveway that's at the south end of your property. Then wouldn't we be able to have some parallel parking on that paved area? And so then they would,
I don't think you're gonna fit anything in there.
not enough room?
Not really. I mean, the spaces have to be, I think, 18 feet long minimum.
Well, if
And
you're
then-
talking about parallel though, I think you're saying, right? You could have one way, I think you're going towards one-way traffic
Right.
and parallel parking.
With two entrances.
I'm just trying to see if there's a way that we can, I like the project. I like what they do.
Mhm.
It helps a lot of people clean things out of their houses as well as that. It's a community thing. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way that we can allow them to have some parking on paved area, the overflow parking. If it was overflow, we hope it is. We hope there's, we hope you are going to be forced to have to build a bigger parking lot. But if there was a way to doing that now,
Is there any way where they could could they open and operate, put off the site plan and the site improvements for some time, but maybe designate parking spaces in front of the building for a period of times to allow you to get open and then move forward with the site improvements?
You mean don't do the green area?
Exactly. Yeah. Don't do any of the site work.
I wouldn't think the state would be happy with that because that would mean they'd be backing out into a possibility into traffic. So
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Well, we assume that DOT is going to want us to do what we're doing here, obviously, but trying to think of some compromises.
is there Mr. Engineer,
Yeah.
is there a way to do a narrower green area so we have what is nicely paved or relatively good paving now be used for a drive and a parking, parallel parking?
I guess, I guess Alex would have to take a look and laying out something that's either parallel or a one-way type of thing with, slanted parking spaces. And see what the required width is and how that would work out here. But I guess I would just say, if we're gonna go down that path, then are we gonna ask that this be repaired? And by the time we spend the money repairing this pavement, would they just be better off doing the actual paving as opposed to spending money on that, ripping it out later, going to phase 2 with the parking on the side where it's shown currently? I
mean, the parking for themselves and their employees, we've never had an issue with those being on gravel. We've got car dealers and stuff that do that all the time. The people that need to be on paving, the way we've interpreted it in the past, is your customers have to be on a paved area. So that's why
I guess that's what I was saying originally is like, can we get an estimate or figure out exactly what the cost would be if we had your main customer spots as well as a walkway into there where they would actually be on pavement the entire time, parked and walking in, because this is a lot of pavement that you have to do over time. And if you did it in stages and started with your customer parking spots in a walkway, so they were never actually on the gravel when they're walking on their feet, it would be interesting to see exactly what you would have to pay for if that was like your first phase.
I mean, potentially you could pave the space from the spaces that abut the building, pave from the back of those spaces to the building. We're trying to create a walkway between the parking spaces and the building, and that's
Right.
one of the purpose those posts are serving, is to keep cars from, taking away that ability for the pedestrians to walk there. But that would give them seven spaces, including a handicap space, with a paved surface for people to walk up to that front door.
Right.
And then maybe you could leave the balance of that, the southern portion of that parking to be paved at a later date.
Yeah, I think you've heard our comments and you've got a few different options to look at, right?
Okay.
And I would definitely be all for that. I mean, we could go back to our fever, we'll get another estimate, and that would be all right with the board, then we could go after, doing that,
You're talking about this section being paved.
Yeah, so basically pave those northern 7 spaces to the building, and by paving to the building, that creates the pedestrian access
On
from those
the
spaces.
side.
Adjacent to the building.
certainly would be a great.
And that's customer parking only.
Be a great compromise, and appreciate it for sure. I'm not sure what the cost would be on that. I know it'd be more, but it certainly would be halfway there.
Yeah, I think if it, Thanks. So I think what we're saying is, regardless, you intend to pave that entranceway up and to meet where the current pavement ends. This all becomes grass, right? And I think if the board's agreeable, if you pave the balance of that initially, that would give you 7 customer spaces with pedestrian access to that door. So you're talking about what, roughly 80 by 26. I think is the dimension of additional pavement you'd have to absorb initially.
If they, yeah, because they can walk in front of their cars,
Exactly.
Mhm.
get to the building. So in theory, the
And that way the
driveway
striping,
right now is not paved.
right,
Mhm.
and but that way the striping can be there and be permanent and not get plowed away as you.
What do you think, Bella?
I think we would need to see it anyways, though, right? Like see it done,
Absolutely have to see
completed
it.
on the,
I think
on
you
the
should-
drawings anyways.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have to come back.
Right,
We
and
gotta-
then also the sign, when you come back with that one too.
I think you still need to consider when you're talking to the paver, having them come back in a year to do the rest, as opposed to doing it all now, maybe it costs savings for you in the long run.
Mm,
And it'll be 10% more next year for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Already.
Right.
Unless oil prices come back down.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah.
Ashley, do you have anything else?
I guess too, just something to think about and the reason why they're concerned. I mean, I haven't been sitting here as long as these guys have, but like, I'm sure a lot of the times if you approve something, oh yeah, you can just do it later, it doesn't actually ever get done.
Sure.
So it's like, it's, their job and my job to like sit here and say like, no, it needs to happen before you open because otherwise it may not ever happen. And then our town doesn't ever improve.
Understood.
So and get safer, so I think that that's where the hesitancy is coming from, I mean, everyone's super supportive of your business. I think it's just like concern of it actually getting done and safety and stuff. So,
Understood.
but I think that was all that I had. Sorry, I
you.
created a long.
Yeah, so, I would reaffirm that we're excited about the business. I think it would be a great asset to the community. And for the record, Pandora, the namesake is very cute, very cute. Yeah, Alex, as you're reviewing it, I'd like you to look at maybe expanding that green area a little bit in the front
Okay.
Mhm.
and some landscaping along there,
More trees.
trees.
I'm always a fan of trees.
Not to
Want
mention
somebody
the
likes
front of
trees
the
as much as
building
me.
and your name would even look better without a bunch of
The,
cars parked out front.
the area right along here, Alex, the north side of this,
Yes, sir.
it's got some like overhead doors or something maybe.
I believe, are there any?
It's
overhead
kind of
doors?
just open it's open on the plan. I couldn't tell.
And the floor plan, I think it shows up as an overhead door there. Yeah. Do you have the floor plan on?
There's
there?
not a lot of space there. I'm just curious what the thought is on that.
That's not gonna be. You have a lot of wood. Great. Lot of stuff.
So overflow.
I'm trying to be nice to myself right now, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's no intent for vehicular access to those overhead doors.
Okay.
You're gonna replace the fascia that's rotted in the back, around the side.
So, the intent, I don't want to speak out of term, but the intent is to replace the fascia on the whole building. Again, there's a want and a need, so, but we're very, eager and hardworking and, we have a lot of pride in what we do, so, we don't want to present something to your point that isn't gonna happen today, but we're in this for the long haul, so gutters and fascia and be doing as much as we can every single year. The money's gonna go right back into the building to continue to build it. So this is a long-term plan for us. Hopefully we can. So,
And I don't know if it was mentioned, they actually have already purchased the property, so they own this now.
and we're all in.
Yesterday, 8 months. 8 weeks, yeah.
8 weeks and a lot of dumpsters and a lot of cleaning. I don't have to tell you guys what it was like before, but
A lot of painting.
the building was not in the best condition.
Right.
when we purchased, and
Right.
I know that, the town knows that, and so, certainly our intent is to make it way nicer than it was, and then it is now, so. Because we have such pride. in it, so.
The trailer that's on the south side, is that going to remain or?
The trailer?
Yeah.
That's
It's
Oh,
gone.
it's gone.
Yeah,
Okay.
the trailers gone, there's no boats, anyone, that.
Yep.
Mess, and, you know, we've been in contact with some folks, they just redid the road out front, we're trying to get some millings to fill in some of the left side there where that trailer was and things, but. Yeah, we have a vision to make it real nice. My push mower pushed a lot of miles already on that grass to get it looking good, knowing we're gonna rip it up anyway.
I have nothing further. Mr. Procopio.
It looked like the aerial imagery, I think it was submitted in your plan, showed that the
Yeah,
previous
there's an
occupants operations kind of
aerial exhibit.
straight over onto the town's property. Is the property boundary on there?
Property line is on there.
Yeah.
What was your point,
Zoom
Steve?
in, well, so if you zoom in on that aerial, I think, I don't know if there's driveway or area that is on the north side of the boundary on the town's property. I just wonder if that was gonna get cleaned up there. I think that's
Is
the
that
same
just-
side you were
is that
talking
just
about,
dirt?
Mark, that.
Yeah, there's-
Where the door over, they were using, getting access to
Yeah.
it over that door.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
weeds and dirt right now. There's a pretty distinct, tree line, I guess. I'm not sure. And as far as the back, like you talking about the north.
The north side, yeah. All right, just as long as that's reverts, but yeah, I think the previous occupant was probably using that land.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done anything
Yeah.
with that side at all. I mean, he had taken some wood chips and spread them around, but that's an awesome view there.
Yeah, that's an older one, yeah.
Yeah, I love that view.
Yeah, we had got him to clean up that area and I didn't realize it was actually over on beyond the property boundary.
Yeah, he's got mold over there. None of that was,
So that's mulch.
it's a pile. See the pile of mulch in the back. I don't know yet.
Okay.
We don't honestly. we haven't
So
planned
the intent
anything.
is that to be vegetated, not
Yeah.
not gravel or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna plan anything there. Just gonna throw up.
Grass and mow it. More mowing.
Yeah, well, the state did a nice job in the corner for me the other day. They mowed all that. They did next to the highway, but. Really been concentrating on the other side more.
Nothing else. I'll say.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah.
All set.
Mark, anything at this point?
No, not at this point.
All right, we're good for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, was this already referred to county planning?
Pardon me?
Do you know if this was already referred to county planning?
Oh, yes, it's gonna be on the August 17th meeting.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I'll coordinate with Mark on any comments he's got and respond to those along with your comments and get resubmitted to come back at a future meeting.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Alex. That brings us to the last agenda item. This is for a sketch plan review. Applicant Daryl Lagudas for the property at 5703 State Route 31, a proposed doggy daycare.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Daryl LaJudas and I own 5703 Route 31. And we've had a person of interest come forward to open a doggy daycare there at the property with one more Halloween store. Doing something years. We believe that it meets the code requirements there as far as the what it's zoned for. And it'd be a great addition to the neighborhood because there's nothing on this side of Route 11 that offers this type of service.
Open it for questions. Mr. Duval.
Yeah, is there a plan to change the facade of the building at all, or?
So we've talked about that a little bit with the tenant and it, you know, one of their thoughts was that we could do a make it look like a dog house. Or wrap it or use it for some signage like that if it's approved for by the
So there is a possibility that changes will be made.
yes, sir.
Parking,
Yeah. we
is
have
there?
plenty of
ade-
parking. There's a lot of parking.
Okay.
Yep, we intend to, we'll restripe it obviously, and we'll add a designated handicap spot up to the front. We're only planning on a couple of employees, and typically in this type of business, people drop off and leave, so there's not a need for a ton of parking, but I believe that they did it based on the square footage of the building and the type of business that we should exceed the number of spots required.
What about signage?
There's an existing sign there now, that's 4x8. And, we're gonna move that back 20 foot off the property line as it states in the drawing. And then that would be refaced.
Is that on the property though?
Yes,
So this is not a property line right here?
it is, but I think she has it with an arrow there showing where it is, and she's going straight back with it.
Yeah, but that's on a different property. So if this is a property line here. Right? I mean, this is the subject property. It's relatively narrow, correct?
Yeah.
And so this is a different property, right?
I see, yeah,
So that sign
she's gonna have to move it over.
isn't located on the property.
Yeah, that's what, it will be moved over then to the right there, so it is within the property confinement.
It does say to be relocated.
Yeah, but I think that means back. Oh, to me, to get the 20 feet, not necessarily on, I mean, it doesn't show a location on the site.
Yeah. Right, it needs to.
Yeah.
Another nice advantage to this building is it sits far back, so there's not, as far as noise is concerned like that, that's something that I think that would be beneficial to it.
Okay, and there's a sheet in here for lighting. This is what you're gonna be using, the wall pack lights.
Yeah, so second time here, so I learned from the first time that they wanted that type of lighting. So we included it in here that we would have that near the doors and exits, back exit and the side overhead door.
Is that noted somewhere on the plan or? Yeah, and it's really, it might be a note somewhere, I guess is what you're saying. I guess I'm not seeing where those lights are on
So
this
she has, I
plan.
think, if you go down to the bottom. Right there.
Okay, I see, okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'll probably guess.
You'll review that.
I'm good.
Mr. Abbey.
Couple things. One is the parking there in front. Do you have a parking space running up dead to the property line? Do you have to be a buffer a little bit in there? Because that's the way it appears to be drawn.
The parking extends from property line to property line. Right?
Okay.
Again, this site is only 60 feet wide, which essentially is the width of two parking, a parking aisle and spaces on each side. It's 24, or well, 22, 18, 18, so pretty.
And that's
pretty
allowed
close.
to go.
Well, I mean, that meets code. It doesn't leave you anywhere to put snow except above and below the parking area or on the adjacent property.
I'm not sure of the terrain right there, but theoretically, somebody could pull in for a parking space and park 3 feet over onto the neighbor.
No, it's all trees there now, but in the past, we plowed this ourselves for 20 years. So in the past, what we've always done is pulled the snow from the building and it all ends up in the bottom right-hand lawn area there, or that we may sacrifice one parking space if it gets real crazy in the winter, but that would be where it would go. I also own the adjacent house next door, and that left there is there's a lot of land there that it's usable for snow, to push snow.
Yeah, and so is this paved
Yeah, it's
right
all
up
paved.
here and this is all contiguous and no real separation is what you're saying?
And the name Says doggy daycare. Does that mean that they won't do any boarding?
No boarding at all, no. They
Okay.
made that very clear to me that their hours of operation are gonna be 6:30 AM to 6 PM, Monday through Friday, no weekends.
Mhm.
That will not be an option.
Again, I noticed that the far west side, north, I guess, yeah, north was putting in a proposed fencing for dog walking and
That's correct, yep.
outdoor.
Yep.
And then for the dogs to be inside, that's in that portion of the building, also on the north side there.
Is there a floor plan?
Yep, on the bottom of that.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yep, so the plan now is that the door there would be the front entranceway. There's gonna be a reception area there in the front.
Uh-huh.
And then in the back, that's kind of separated there by the bathroom. There would be a gate, to separate that area, and then there would be maybe like 2 stalls there so that they could have different types of dogs separated. And then an overhead door on this west side they would let them to go outside to the fenced-in area for play.
Will they be doing any grooming also?
Not at this point, no.
All right, all set for now. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
So I take it the tractor trailer, it's there's gone.
Going away, yep.
I don't know how I feel about the front. I mean, I didn't like it when it was put up. I hope it was done by code, but maybe it wasn't.
No, Dean Johnson drew those. We had to have prints drawn for that, and those were drawn to be done.
Well, I think I mean, right now, I would say that you probably couldn't do anything to that front to make it look neat for me, but maybe your architect engineer will have a way of making it look presentable. It certainly isn't for me right now. The neighbors on either side are, you say you own what, the house that's on the west side?
West side and the property behind it.
So if they complain, it's not a problem
No.
with any noise. The neighbor to the east, do they know what's being proposed?
I don't know. So it's a rental. Somebody uses it as a rental property. They bought it and it's rented. So I don't know that. They're not. Our plan is to use a solid fence in the back and keep everything on the west side anyways. And that building is solid block. The old house in the front is solid block. So with these hours that they're gonna be open, to me, I think that we should be in good shape as far as any neighbors go. And to go back to your sense with the front of the building, we're not opposed to taking that down. That's something, if that's a contingency that you guys want, we're not opposed to that. The problem with this property as a commercial building, when I owned the Halloween store there, without that front, when you drive by, it looks like a little tiny old house. We had a commercial backlit awning on the front. We did a lot of stuff that spruced it up from when it was the Satin Apple. But nobody knows that you have that 2,000 square foot in the back. So they drive by, they see this little house and they keep going. They come in, if they do come in, they say, oh my goodness, they didn't know this existed here, right? So that kind of added a sense of identity to it. And talking to the person who's leasing the building, when they have shared their idea of this doggy daycare, they say, no, it's on 31 where the castle is. It's kind of become they know what that is, right? So again, we're not opposed to taking it down. And if that's what one of your contingencies are, we'd be happy to do that. But we'd also would like you to keep an open mind and maybe see if we can design it into something that would be kind of neat to give it some character there.
Well, I think right off the bat, it could look like a big dog house.
Right.
That might be interesting. I'm not sure whether the total board would agree with that, but that I can see where that could be a possibility. And maybe you wouldn't have to have it be so tall, but could still do,
Concept, yep.
and then Yeah, I had trouble finding it by the number. I did not look at all my paperwork. Had I seen the picture of the castle that you had in your, I would have known exactly. I live just down the street from there, but
Maybe we could tie it into a Snoopy design.
That's right.
Sometimes just because you know something's there doesn't mean it's a good thing though.
Yeah, for as long as we're on that subject, for me, the castle's a no-go.
Yeah.
And even, I mean, I don't want to see a doggy house there either. I want to see a nice commercial structure.
I
from my
agree.
Perspective.
Okay.
But I didn't mean to cut in on your time.
no, I was definitely done.
Mr. Bloss.
I guess I gotta join the crew here. I'm not in favor of the castle front end on that building. I didn't like it from day one, but so we should address that and do what you can do with that. Other than that, I think they've asked most of the questions.
This
That
is
one concern would be the dogs, the barking, but you said that's a rental property on the east side.
Correct.
You know, if they have 8, 10, dozen, you know, there's gonna be dogs barking in there.
There is, but a lot of the complaints that, as I've researched this myself, right, because I'm part of this community, but a lot of the complaints that you find is with boarding. Because that happens overnight when they're not being attended to, they're not being played with, they're not being watched. You know, they lock that door at the end of the night, shut the lights off, and, you know, that's it. So
Yeah.
what's nice about this plan is that, you know, we know that's not gonna happen. And that will be a firm stipulation that we can put in there that, you know, we know in the past, some people have said that and then they've added that after the fact, but that's not our intention and that won't happen here.
Yeah, I've been in Spares many, many times. I've never heard the dogs that are next door.
The neighbors have.
Well,
Yeah.
because they're 24/7.
You're in and out of Sparrows in like 10 minutes.
No, I'm in Spares longer than that. That's the
Oh.
trouble.
Whose turn is it?
I'm also.
You're done? This is Hogan. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Most of them have been answered anyways. Oh, was there a total number of dogs allowed at one time? Was that on there? Or?
It's hard to say, right? But we're anticipating probably 20 dogs maybe at the high end.
Okay. And then the fenced in area, where does that end? Is that the dotted line or like the hard line back there? Where the fenced in area is? It's this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Starts at this corner here, comes around, back, and then all the way up here to the. front,
Oh,
and then
okay. Now I see it.
feature.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess that was my only concern too. Like, is there anything that goes right up to the fence in terms of safety with all the dogs being like free to go? So there's nothing that could actually, like in terms of neighboring areas or anything,
No,
can
that's
get to
all-
that area,
Behind that is actually all wooded land and
right?
the left is kind of brush as well right now, so, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then. Oh, plans to walk the dogs at all, or is it just their exercise is in the fenced in area? Do you know if there's any plans to actually walk the dogs, like if they have the dogs for like the full 12 hours?
Yeah, so
There is
for
plans-
now, no, it's just gonna be outside playtime or inside.
Okay. Okay. So that would be my only concern, just because of the area that it's in. It's a busy area. No one can actually just even get a dog and get it on a leash and like walk anywhere.
So we.
With it
we
being
would-
safe?
We may propose a gate in the back of this whole thing.
Yeah,
And again, you know, there's another 3 acres back there. that if-
right.
If they needed to walk a dog, they could do that certainly.
Okay. That was
That
it.
acreage you have control over?
Fine, yeah.
You know, chip plan's coming?
Yeah.
Dog waste, what's the plan
So
for?
I brought that up and, we're anticipating a small roll-off container, like not a dumpster, but a container, and that would be taken care of daily with 20 dogs. She wasn't concerned about an overabundance or not having enough space for that.
Steve, how does it work with the town garbage pickup? Do they do commercial? Oh, no.
No.
No, okay. So they won't even pick up dog waste anymore. So that's being taken care of. If you can give us a description on that, on the plan, what happened with that?
Yep.
And there was, what looks like some landscaping up front that's kind of overgrown. I think that you need to show a plan for that to show what's gonna happen with it.
What is it?
A little landscape area. It's kind of just
Oh,
grown over
around
now.
the sign.
Yeah,
That's gonna go away once the sign gets moved and we'll redo that and,
so we're gonna want to see that plan of the landscape that you're gonna do there. And then like to the east of the property, even with the buildings kind of like all overgrown and stuff, that's gonna be all cleaned up, I would presume. Back there. And over here, that's all gonna be cleaned up.
I don't know where you're looking at. I'm sorry, I can't.
Mark, can you
Either
put
side
the
of the
site plan up?
castle.
Yes.
Please. All along the sides. Right in here. It's kind of like just,
Left of the building?
see the red dot?
Yep.
There he is, kind of like all grown over and it just looks like stuff in there. It just needs to be cleaned up.
Okay, yeah.
Both-
That
both
was-
sides.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
It's been, we only used to open it, for a while, we were open all year round, and then Amazon came around, and so that kind of hurt that, so then we opened in October only, and then Amazon was still there, and that hurt that, and just-
I get it. Now, is that,
Service businesses, I think, are important to this town too, because retail is suffering and struggling.
right, yep. That's all I have, Steve.
I just want to follow up on Ashley's question. About the total number of dogs, you asked maybe 20, but isn't there a limit that based on the square footage and how they're handled during the day? Are there kennels in there? Are they just free rein in an area in the middle of the
So there's
building?
no kennels, because that would be boarding, right? So they wouldn't do that. If you go back down to the bottom to the floor plan, the whole big back space is gonna essentially be open with like one divider. So as you walk through from the front door to the back, on the right side wall, there may be like a chase, right, where you would walk. But then there would be a partition that would move so that, if you had 10 senior dogs today and 10 older dogs or younger dogs, you put them all half and half. But if it was less, you would move it one way or the other. In this business, a lot of it is the number of clients that you pre-sell. So if you pre-sell 25, a package of 25, let's say visits, right? Then that's how they make a lot of their money. So what will happen is they're going to schedule the number of dogs they can have. I mean, I know I take my dog to one now in Baldwinsville, and you got to schedule in advance. Otherwise they say, nope, we're full today. So that number is easily regulated.
But the dogs that are on daycare, they're not in a kennel?
No.
Okay,
She's
so I'm.
Can we get your name, please?
I've worked in dog daycare for like 8 years. I started in like 2015. So basically in New York State, I think it's 1 employee per 30 dogs. Technically, so you don't need licenses, you don't need anything of that matter. But it is 1 person per 30 dogs. So me saying 25 is me saying me and 1 employee. With the hopes that I have 25 dogs right off the bat. But yeah, so basically how I want it to be set up is where that, you go from the lobby to the back room. I'd like to have 2 walls, with gates in the middle technically. So like he was saying, if I had 10 dogs show up on a Monday morning, they can have free reign of the whole building with me and an employee. Or, I have 25 dogs show up and I have 10 that get along and 10 that get along, I can split them off and everyone's safe. So I think that answers your concern
So if
about,
you have a dog that doesn't get along, he probably won't be asked back.
right. So basically, I mean, in the dog daycares I was at, we had our set group. So I have a husky who gets along with everyone. I put my husky in a room and I put the other dog in the room. We see what happens. If it goes well, that dog can come to daycare. If it doesn't go well, we ask you to not come back.
Somewhere else.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, 8 years of experience, I kind of know right off the bat if it's going to work or not.
It brings up a good point, though. Is there a spot, like, let's say there aren't dogs getting along, the owner's already gone, and so there's a dog housing issues. Is there a space set up
Yep.
for that?
So I think I had mentioned to him, like, you know, how like an extra large dog kennel, you know, just like a fold down crate.
Yeah.
In the way back where in the costume place, he had like fitting rooms. I think I'm gonna leave like a little bit of a space back there just to have kennels in case I do need them.
Okay.
But the plan is to not, I don't want anyone there overnight. I don't want my weekends off. I don't, you know, so in that case, yeah, I think we'll have 2 or 3 extra large kennels back there. You know, just in case something like that happened.
So there are no rules then for our town or New York State or anything in terms of spacing and how many dogs can be together in one room? Like there's no other rules besides for how many employees per dog amount? There's
Yeah.
no other guidelines?
No. I worked at a dog daycare in Rochester and I worked at 2 out here. And as far as I know, as far as my research has gone, it's 1 person per 30 dogs and it's kind of like, you know,
open like
group-
this, your experience has been open like this?
What's that?
Your experience has been that it's open like this?
Yep. So the last daycare I was at for 6 years, was exactly how I want to set it up. If we were slow, all the doors were open. If we were busy, the doors were closed. We separated. And from my experience, the first daycare I worked at was not set up like that. And it was not a good time. So I think it's just much easier to have separate rooms. Everyone can be calm, in control. We don't have 30 dogs shoved in one space. Open concept or not seems to be the better option to
Steve,
keep
anything else?
everyone safe.
No.
Mr. Jermaine? Mr. Parrish, anything at this point? All right, terrific. Unless there's anything more from you, we're all set for tonight. Thank you. That concludes our agenda item. Any questions or comments from the team? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
I'll second.
Meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.
My